types of intervals we've been constructing thus far. We've only been juggling back and forth between two types of counter. T and Z, yes. Why do we need both of them? Why do we need both of them? What's so important, Dad? Why can't we just use one to do everything? Good. One is when you have to estimate, when we're trying to estimate a population proportion, which we call little p, box. And one's when we're going to estimate a population mean, little mu. Good. And you need each one because the margin of error, which I painstakingly dragged you guys through last week, I apologize if you're still scarred from that. You don't have to worry about ever doing it again. I mean, the machine takes care of it all for us, which is nice. But the margin of error has to adjust because, as Lauren said, the percentage has a margin of error that's based on a percentage. And an average has a margin of error that's based on whatever unit the average is in. So if the average is in dollars, the margin of error has to be in dollars. If the average is in time, seconds, the margin of error has to be in seconds. That's what it was on Wednesday last week when I had you guys time in 10 seconds. There was a margin of error around your estimate x bar. And that margin of error has to agree with the units. So you can't use this guy to estimate time. I mean, the only thing you could do with that is estimate the number of you that were over or under 10 seconds. So you could do that. And sometimes you have to do that, honestly. I was working on a 243 problem. I read an interesting article. I skimmed it. I didn't get a chance to read it as deeply as I wanted to. Why your Facebook friends have more friends than you do. I was like, that's an interesting little title. I need to read that now. And the first was Zuckerberg's team did a big data analysis, and they figured out that the average number of friends per Facebook user was something like 262. I'm making up a number here. I have no idea what the number was. But if you look at their friends, the average of their friends' was something like 465. And it was this kind of cool little paradox in that, on average, people have fewer friends than their friends do. And it actually goes back to 1991, an article that was written by a sociologist that said why your friends have more friends than you do. And mathematically, you can prove it under certain kind of decent conditions. You can prove that sociologically, you tend to have less friends than your friends do. And the big takeaway from it was, you tend to be friends with more popular people. Like, you're drawn to them and you want to be friends with more popular people. So therefore, by definition, mathematically, it holds up. So it's almost like the sociological theory or sociological observation holds up mathematically. But I said, what the hell, I want to find this out. So I got to my Facebook page and I highlighted the entire, you go to your friend's page and you wait till everything loads and copy it all into Excel like we did back in 243. Get rid of all the pictures and strip out everything to just the numbers. And I wanted to use something like this to estimate, is this true for me? Is it true that I have fewer friends than my friends have friends? But the problem was, I couldn't use this tool because my data looked like that, like severely like that. Highly skewed data set. One of the assumptions for both of these guys is that you can't have too many outliers here, and you have to have enough samples over here to generate a bell curve. Now, research methods classes will teach you this a lot more succinctly. But the problem with this was I'm friends with a couple people that have like 4,500 or 5,000 friends. They're bands that have been touring all over the country. So just by virtue of the fact they put themselves in a lot of places, more and more people find them. So I couldn't use this idea. I couldn't look at my average number of friends. So I reverted back to what I could, which was look at the percentage of friends who had more friends than me. That was easy enough to do, because I had plenty of trials for that. I had a 10% margin of error, which is kind of wide. But still, nonetheless, I could still analyze it. Whereas I couldn't use this at all because it didn't make any sense. So you can flip-flop back and forth, but if you have a measurement, it's nice to be able to use this when you can. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, good. So anyway, it's nice to have both skills under your belt, because if one fails, you can revert back to this guy. This guy is the one you're going to see most of the time in mass media. I got some other examples we'll look at later on today. Only because it's very, very hard generally to get this kind of data. Measurements are harder to get than counts. I mean, that's just by definition. I mean, if you stick a thermometer in something, or put a ruler up next to something, or put something on a scale, it's going to take more time, and you need more precision than just going yes, yes, no, 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 yes, no, yes, yes, no, 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 no. It's much easier to do this.
That's accurate.
Maybe. It depends on what you're talking. That's a good point, actually, JC. For me, I don't think I lost a whole lot of accuracy because I knew what my number of friends was, so I know how to compare it to that 673. It's less something. What the hell's the word we should use, though? It's less. Yeah, it is less something. Let me think about that. It is less something.
Less descriptive.
Maybe descriptive. Maybe because we lose that idea of precision in the measurement. Maybe less descriptive. Yeah, that's this English is failing me right now. It is less something. We'll go with descriptive until we can think of a better.
So like depending on what angle you're looking at.
Exactly. Like I had to change the question essentially because it said I wanted to see, what was the average number of friends my friends had, but I couldn't do that. So I had to revert my. It's a less detailed question I had to ask. Well, how many of them had more friends than me? Well, it's less detailed. It doesn't actually tell me how many they have. It just tells me how many have more than me. So I lose that. You know what it's like? It's like in 243, looking at the weight loss data, the very first data set we ever crunched in 243, food supplement versus real food, weight loss, and trying to figure out if a weight loss plan was working based on negative and positive numbers.
Oh, yeah.
If we just, do you remember that from back in the day? Right, if we just threw the data out and looked at positives versus negatives, we can simply count negatives versus positives and say, well, 27 were negative and 3 were positive, therefore roughly 90% lost weight. But it doesn't say how much weight they lost. It just tells you it could have been 1 pound, it could have been half a pound, it could have been 1/10 of a pound, it could have been 60 pounds. You lose that quantity, that quantifier. So I think it is, I think detailed, was that a word? Detailed? I believe descriptive. Yeah, we lose something. There's a dimension we lose. It goes from being this to just this. Are you on this side or this side of this point? But it doesn't tell us how far to one side or the other. So you definitely get more detail with this guy. But sometimes you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need to ask people, do you agree or disagree with how Congress is running and how pissed off are you? I mean, most of the time Gallup doesn't ask that because number one, they can't measure it. And number two, it's easier just to go yes or no. So this is very, very prevalent. Very, very, very prevalent.
I think I might just be missing the point of, because you were trying to use one of those.
I wanted to do this.
Okay, I was like, why didn't you just put the data in and then
I did.
a dot?
I did. That's where I got my skewed data set. See, the problem is, it looked.
But skewed or not, I mean, that's your data.
It's on my home computer. Well, the problem was, when you skew it, it's going to pull the average towards the skew. That's the problem. When you skew it, it pulls the average towards the skew. So you might. This goes back to 243. You got to be careful using an average. I mean, even in 244, you got to be careful using an average, even an X bar, when your sample itself has many, many outliers. My sample drawn had like 5 outliers in it, and I'm like,
I wasn't thinking of it as far as finding necessarily your average, but I was thinking of putting the graph next to that to show where your data is.
For sure, and I did that. That's what I did at first. I plopped them up side by side. I'm like, ugh. Because I was trying to emphasize the idea, if the data is roughly, arguably bell-shaped, you can pop out 2 standard deviations and find out where I live. But 2 standard deviations didn't make any sense with that data because it was so highly skewed with these humps on the end of it. So I threw it out and did this instead. So it's less powerful, if you will, from a statistical point of view, but you can still do something with it. And what's cool is you can still look at a margin of error, just a different one. It's a percentage of those that have more friends than you versus how many friends those friends have. So you can still get something done. You can still get something done. And you'll learn this as you go through your own research kind of classes. I was most excited about how to copy from a Facebook page data into an Excel document and extract the numbers within 2 or 3 minutes. Like, think about it. Open your Facebook page and go to your friend's page. And there's a picture of your friend, their name, and then the number of friends they have. And it's in this kind of goofy table. And then off to the side, because Facebook is ADD like me, it's constantly telling you what the hell's going on with people. This is blah, this is blah, this is blah. And at the bottom there's ads. At the top there's crap. Select the whole page, copy it, and drop in text only into Excel, and the pictures go away. And then it's just a matter of using text-to-columns tricks. And you can, within 2 or 3 minutes, you can just extract the numbers that you need. The reason I tell you this is not because I want you to pull your Facebook data off your Facebook page. But if you ever find data that's not in like a perfect Excel form online, you can totally get that data into a spreadsheet in a usable way. And I learned all kinds of tricks this weekend. So if that ever happens to you guys when you're out there doing research or whatever, just shoot me an email. There's some really, really cool tricks that you can, F5 buttons and things. So anyway.